back to another watch list, my somewhat weekly look at what I've been watching and what I've been up to. First one up is Easy Rider, the second film that I've watched out of the BBS Story box set, Criterion box set, although I have the original release still sealed here as well, so I just thought it'd be easier to display on the stand here. So Easy Rider is literally a road movie, except instead of a car, they are on rather uncomfortable looking bikes. It stars mainly Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, and then later on Jack Nicholson appears as a Texas boy, which it turns out they didn't think that he would have been very good at doing, or that was what came out in the special features. Easy Rider tells the story of basically a journey across the country to deliver some drugs, really, and make some money. And as a road movie, it goes through various stages. They meet various characters along the way. They meet new people, and it's very much a movie that, in many ways, is style over substance. It uses popular music at the time. It's nearly a who's who of what was popular at the time, and as I found out from the extras, it was one of the few to start doing that. It didn't have its own written soundtrack. It just used contemporary music for a lot of it to go. So you have Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild. The list is endless, and one of the joys is actually looking at how the music marries up with what's going on screen. And for a long while, I thought Easy Rider is very much that. It's very much style over substance. It was very much experimental filmmaking by Dennis Hopper. They stumbled upon some things and ways to use the camera that they didn't necessarily intend to do. They were just looking for an effect, and the effect that they got, they kind of liked. But it feels like a watershed movie, a bit like Head previously, that was independent cinema kind of going to the fore. Plus you also had like this young Jack Nicholson come in and steal the show in many ways. It's a somewhat difficult watch in places, as well as it is not an easy-go-lucky, happy theme to the movie, if you want me to say that. There are some difficult issues there, and some that are really, really relevant today, and that is Easy Rider, and I give it about 3 stars out of 5. Next up was a rewatch of sorts for me, which is the Criterion documentary Burroughs. And I think I said in the Criterion collection tour before that I wasn't a great fan of Burroughs, because I don't know that William S. Burroughs is a particularly likeable character. And I said I would go back and watch it again because I was interested in the filmmaking that goes along with it. And I come away with many of the same thoughts, although I appreciate the filmmaking more, if that makes sense. We have Burroughs surrounded by his plethora of side characters or friends of his that kind of back up what he says and what he thinks and what type of person that he is to other people. I mean, he's an author, a very famous and well thought out author who was very controversial at the time, although the point is made in extras and subsequently that if he was writing nowadays, there would be literally nothing about him that's controversial. And that there were some weird and wonderful things that happened in his life. I mean, this man got away with murdering his wife in some ways, although everybody seems rather astonishingly blasé about it in the film. You know, it's very much, oh, can you believe that happened? Which I thought was a bit weird, but they explain more of what happens in it. But I thought the more interesting parts of it were the relationships between his adopted son, or his somewhat adopted son, and his own son, and how their relationship married. There's some great documentary footage of them all together in the same room, and you can see there's a bit of tension, or a bit of fighting for attention, or certainly from some parties over the other ones in watching that. So Burroughs, I don't think my opinion has necessarily changed it. Every time I've watched it now, it's become a bit more interesting to watch. I think I've softened on what I think of him as a character, because I don't think there's necessarily bad in him. It's just a very peculiar and quirky and somewhat cold character a lot of the time. So that's Burroughs. Next one up is from a streaming platform I watched on Arrow Video Channel. I didn't buy the disc because I was a bit unsure of Zombie for Sale. And this is a zomcom, so a zombie comedy, where a family finds a zombie walking through place, and he bites the grandfather. And the grandfather goes to hospital, comes out, but he wakes up the next morning and he's considerably younger. He's considerably younger looking. His hair colours come back, and the family see this as a bit of an opportunity to make some money and get some fame, and they basically take this zombie in and sell the zombie as a youth product for all and sundry around the place. You don't need me to tell you where that goes afterwards. And for me, it's a bit hit and miss. It is funny, it is a comedy, but a lot of the comedy missed for me, and it's a real pity, because I really like the look of the film. I like the kind of how zany it is, but a lot of the comedy was very eye-rolling to me, but others will absolutely love it. I can see my wife, for instance, if she could get over the zombie part, really enjoying it, because it really seems to fit her style of humour. Zombie for Sale for me was a bit of a miss, and one that I'll probably watch again because it's an easy watch, and for some of the pyrotechnics and some of the events that happen towards the end, and I kind of like the ending of it. Yeah, there's something to be had out of it, but it's not one that would rush out to buy. Although I will say there's a lovely slip-in offer from Arrow Video at the moment with it, so if you like the film, I think it's one that you'll look and like on your shelf. Next up is another Criterion release. This one is the Bette Davis film, or classic now, Voyager. And classic is the right word. This is an absolute knockout of a film. Both myself and my wife watched this on the night of her birthday recently, and I was kind of floored by it. The fact that I had never heard of it beforehand, and that people subsequently have talked about it in the extras, etc., in this revered tones, is definitely worth it. Now Voyager tells the story of a rich family in Boston, which has a daughter, Charlotte, played by Bette Davis, who is seen as on the verge of a nervous breakdown, a bit weird, and there's a very controlling mother, played incredibly by Gladys Cooper, in it, who unbelievably was only 50 something when making the movie. She's made up to be a lot older. She basically wants her daughter fixed so she can be a fit and proper lady, and also to look after her. So she gets taken away to a residential in the country by Claude Rains' character, who plays a doctor, and he fixes her in some ways and sends her off on a cruise to the Caribbean. It's on around Caribbean, but ends up in Rio, etc. Goes around there, and she meets a variety of characters and basically finds herself in her own personality. There she becomes this very glamorous lady that you see in the cover, and there she meets a character played by Paul Henreid, who she falls for. The two of them strike up a very close relationship, and the issue being, of course, that the man that she meets is married, and there's not really a prospect of a future for them together. But back she goes to Boston to face her family and her mother as a changed person. And this film has so many levels and so many ideas and themes that it wants to go through. It is a film about class. It is a film about mental health. It is a film about abuse by a parent. It is a film about unrequited love. It's a film about love. It's a film about lots of different things. And one thing that I don't think I'd ever seen in any film that I've seen Bette Davis in before is how incredible an actress that she was. It becomes very clear in one of the extras, which goes into Bette Davis's career and how she's seen herself and the challenges she faced and how she overcame them. But she is an incredible actress. It's an incredible performance. It's an incredible script. It is just full of good and great stuff in it, and I urge you to go and find it and put it out. If you're a fan of films from this era at all, now Voyager is one of the very best that you will see in that regard. There is also one of those talk show interviews with Dick Cavett with Bette Davis that lasts nearly an hour, and she is one of the most interesting, funny, and just fascinating characters that I've ever seen in cinema, and one that makes this disc even better than what you would otherwise think. There's also a short documentary or a short piece on the use of costume within the film, as it is basically played out, and suggested this is a costume drama because the costumes tell the story of the film. And just an absolutely wonderful disc, just absolutely incredible. And I have to say, it also has one of the thickest booklets that you'll see in a very long time. I will say the cardstock is pretty heavy, but there are two pretty good essays in it, and that only further reinforce what an absolutely stellar and stunning release that now Voyager is. And then last but certainly not least is the Eureka Masters of Cinema release of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which is the first film by Elia Kazan. I always thought it was Elia, but listening to some of the extras in this disc, it seems like it was Elia Kazan. And A Tree Grows in Brooklyn tells the story of, like many films around that time in Europe, were telling of poverty. So it's very similar to the likes of Rossellini's neorealisms or Vittorio De Sica, some of the Italian neorealism that was there, and that it tells about a family that is really struggling. It is a father and a mother and two children, a boy and a girl. And the mother looks after the household very well. The father is a singing waitress, or a singing waiter of sorts, and who likes a tipple or two or a drink. And I'll come right out and say it. This is one of the best movies I have watched in a very, very long time. Now, I am a complete sucker for melodrama. It will get me every single time. I love Douglas Sirk films for the same reason. And A Tree Grows in Brooklyn just is backed up not only with a good storyline, great filmmaking and direction, but incredible performances. And I think if you look at a lot of Kazan's movies, things that he's famed for are these incredible performances by the actors that are under his remit. I mean, the two performances by the two kids are some of the best that I've seen in any movie. You know, Peggy Ann Garner and the young boy whose name escapes me, and then the two leading actors. All the performances in it are incredible, even from the side characters. Like Joan Blundell plays her sister, Dorothy McGuire plays the mother. You know, they're incredible performances. And this film got me very emotional, I have to say. It hurt me in places. It reached me in places as I went through and did. As the two parents want the best for the kids, but they have their own struggles. They have to feed their family. They have to do whatever they can to survive. And all the while, there's this tree out the street where the name of the film comes from that is stalled growing. And the father, who is much loved by his daughter and by everybody else around him, explains to the girl that the roots will take hold again, and give it time and room to breathe, and the tree will blossom and grow again. And that's kind of the theme of the film. So that's my films for this week. If you've seen any of them, please let me know. Like I say, Tree Grows in Brooklyn, it's just utterly fabulous. Now Voyager's utterly fabulous. It just makes the other films that I've seen this week just pale in significance, but also quite good movies. Even Zombie for Sale, which missed a little for me, I think is still a pretty good watch as well. So thanks very much for watching. Let me know what you've been watching yourself, and I'll catch up with you as always soon. Take care, all the best, bye.